this morning. And it's a wonderful opportunity to share some ideas and thoughts about spirit and community, and also this unique opportunity to share a talk with my dear friend and colleague, director, super spiritual, Blankis. And the talk this morning is titled, "We Elevate Ourselves Together Through the Power of Conscious Community." And I think a couple of the words that are important that we'll play with a little bit this morning are conscious and community. Because if we're unconscious in community, we don't really receive a lot of benefit, nor are we giving much. But when we're conscious, it can make a big difference. Of course, there's many communities that we participate in. Many of us have families that we participate in, friends, circle of friends, maybe a group of a similar interest group that we might participate in, but also, of course, spiritual communities. And that's what we're focused on this morning. Now, for myself, I first got involved in a spiritual community, a formal, organized community in 1997. It was New Vision Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I started classes right away, became a practitioner in 2000, and was very active in that community, served in many ways. Another community I joined in 2007 was the Holmes Institute, the ministerial training program. And upon completing my training, I became part of a community in California known as Namaste. I was the assistant minister, and then eventually the spiritual leader, the senior minister, for a few years. And I think most of you are aware, both Blankis and myself work at home office, and while that's a job, it's also a spiritual community to some degrees. Very unique. And I like to think of being part of another community, the Convention of the Americas. And some people might say, yeah, it's just a convention, it's a get-together, but I myself love to attend and participate because of the sense of family and connection. So to me, the convention itself is another of my spiritual communities. And Blankis, so what are some of the spiritual communities you've been involved in?
Claro que sí. Y un recordatorio para nuestro querido invitado especial, hablar despacio porque tenemos la traducción de Lorenza. Y bueno, las comunidades espirituales en las que yo he participado. Bueno, para empezar es en mi familia. Creo que mis padres fueron mis papas. Ellos me enseñaron a tener estos fundamentos, ¿no? Del amor, de reconocer que hay algo más allá de mí, y me dieron las bases, ¿no? Como mm, para, para ser libre y poder entrar precisamente al nuevo pensamiento. Y el nuevo pensamiento empecé con CSL Dallas, con el Centro de Vida Espiritual de Dallas. Después empecé a tomar clases en línea y con nuestra querida doctora Rebeca Piña. Y bueno, empecé con México, después Mérida. Después L, y en L hubo una clase, creo que fue la de gerencia efectiva, no me acuerdo bien cuál fue la clase, que vimos el libro del doctor Jim Locker de Amada Comunidad. Y precisamente en la Convención de las Américas se creó este nuevo grupo, ¿no? Que fue la Amada Comunidad, invitando no solamente a los líderes que estaban estudiando en L, sino a todos los practicantes. Entonces, L, Amada Comunidad, la Convención de las Américas están así como que medias unidas, medios de la mano, y aunque son diferentes. Y otra organización que también, bueno, pues como tú lo dijiste, en home office, ¿no? Así es.
So, Blankis, could you share a little bit about, our consciousness affects the community. We come into spiritual community often looking for growth and change. Sometimes we're on fire for spiritual learning. But could you describe your consciousness when you were first coming into CSL Dallas?
Bueno, fíjate que cuando llegué al nuevo pensamiento, así es el Dallas, llegué con esta idea de muy de víctima, muy de saber de que, de creer que Dios me castigaba o que Dios me premiaba, ¿no? Y hablando de en ciencia de la mente vemos los niveles de conciencia, que tú más al rato a sumergir en eso. Em, Hablando un poco de estos 4 niveles de conciencia, yo llegué con este victimismo, pero con la idea de manifestar, o sea, queriendo esta manifestación, ¿no? Que Luis Alge contaba en sus libros, que los otros autores decían que yo tenía, entonces yo quería como que esta manifestación, ¿no? Y dentro de mí siempre he sentido que, siempre he tenido mucha fe, desde chiquita. He tenido esta relación con Dios, que quieras o no, se va como que, creo que yo que en este canal que es el aspecto 3 de conciencia, pero iba con mucho miedo, no con esta. Sí, iba con el miedo. Entonces volvemos al nivel 1 y 2 más que otros aspectos de conciencia. Sí. ¿Qué de ti, James? Platícanos cómo fue tu nivel de conciencia cuando llegaste a ese nuevo pensamiento.
Well, I had always, from the time I was young, teenager, felt a presence of something. And at the time, I thought of it as the love of God. And when I first found New Vision Center, I was coming out of a dysfunctional relationship and reigniting that sense of presence and wanting to learn more. And so I was coming in with very much not a victim or powerless aspect, but very much feeling empowered to do something. And I think it might make sense just to really, for those that may not be aware or maybe haven't thought about the aspects of consciousness, the model of consciousness growth lately, to just do a super quick review, go into more detail later. But there's really 4 states. They're not stages because we don't graduate from state or from one into the next. But the first is this idea of having the mentality that I have no power, that life happens to me. Some call it victimhood. But we can grow out of that into the second aspect, which is empowerment. It's by me, I can do something. The third is more of a co-creative energy where I am working with spirit, with God, with my idea of the creator, however that may be. And the fourth is as me, that the veil of separation has fallen away and I'm moving through life as spirit. In New Vision, it was very much that second aspect, feeling very empowered. I was going to do something and make it happen. And as Blankis shared, it sounds like you were maybe, again, there's states, so we go back and forth, maybe having some underlying fear, but also that sense of God or that sense of love, that sense of creativity at the same time, kind of dancing with that. Does that sound about right?
Sí, eso me gusta, el que es como un baile, ¿no? No siempre permaneces en un aspecto o en el otro, no es tampoco niveles, ¿no? Y sí, me gusta lo que dices, que es un baile.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that we've been describing what was happening with us. But communities go through consciousness growth also. And it's not just based on how long the community's been together, but it's really driven by the consciousness of the individuals. Now, while some people coming into community might be in that powerless state, and others might be in more operating out of the asmi, as spirit, there tends to be a general consciousness of a community. And as we shift, we can affect a shift on that community as a whole. And so, just to go into a little more detail on each of these aspects, and while I'm relating it, I'll be relating it primarily individually, but let's have in our minds how that might also show up in community. And so, again, the first aspect is the victim. Life happens to me. It's often where many people are when they first find a spiritual community, and that includes our CSL communities. And when someone first shows up in this aspect, they're going to need more from the community than they're giving, because they're really often needing healing. They don't have deep spiritual understanding. They may need prayer support, may have not felt unconditional love before. So this is the first aspect where someone really doesn't feel strong, but if they stay in community and the community supports and welcomes in these newbies, these newcomers, then they can start to feel empowered. We can start to understand there's a law, and we can use that law to manifest change in our own lives. It's almost like we become the driver of our own car of life. And then over time, this will starts to shift as we begin to share gifts, because we're no longer worried about surviving. We're now moving toward giving. And we see this happen for a lot of people with their first class they take, whether it's Foundations, Beyond Limits, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, that students find out that prayer works, that our affirmative prayer has a power and it can shift their lives. And so they get very excited. But over time, we can get tired of just manifesting stuff. I call it stuff, whether it's, our shelter, whether it's nice transportation. Maybe we finally have a healthy relationship, but we tire of manifesting stuff, and we begin to open to a greater idea. The idea that we can be a vessel for spirit to work through. And this is the third aspect. So our vision becomes larger. We start to feel like we want more love, more peace. We are often treating for God qualities as opposed to stuff. There's nothing wrong with stuff, nothing wrong with money, nothing wrong with having nice clothes. But there begins to be the desire for something more. And we start to allow God, life, spirit, to drive the car. We're more open to being a passenger and allowing God to drive. And then ultimately, the fourth aspect is when the sense of separation begins to fall away. We give up the identification that we're just a person, that we're just a little me, and we allow spirit to really guide our lives in a way that's aligned with these God principles. We move our vision, our idea for life beyond a personal agenda. We become the living vision that spirit has in and through and as our life. So we're no longer the driver of the car. We're no longer or just the driver. We're no longer just the passenger, but we are the driver, the passenger, and the car. For truly, there is only one. So I just want to remind us that once again, these are states, not stages. A stage is something like being a teenager. Eventually, you grow out of being a teenager. You go into being an adult. Well, at least the birthdays say so. But so we can go back and forth. We can be feeling like we're co-creating with spirit, and something happens, and suddenly we feel powerless. So just a reminder that these are states. So I'm wondering, going back to CSL Dallas, Blankis, what aspect would you say that CSL Dallas itself as a community was operating out of when you arrived there and started to participate?
Híjole, mira, muy buena pregunta. Yo siento que, em, yo siento que el líder tiene mucho que ver, pero es mi percepción, obvio, ¿no? Yo creo que el líder tiene mucho que ver y en esto, en los centros para la vida espiritual, en diferentes cuestiones que nosotros manejamos de nuestros diferentes grupos, hay un líder, pero el líder no se maneja solo, se maneja por a un lado de él o alrededor de él. Hay un grupo de personas, son consejos o grupos de o equipo de trabajo, lo que sea, que juntos hacen que la comunidad se mueva, ¿no? Yo siento que, bueno, Dallas es un centro muy fuerte, muy estable, pero sí recuerdo que cuando yo llegué recién a Dallas, yo empecé a formar parte de la comunidad hasta que tomé la clase de fundamentos. Entonces yo quería saber más, ¿no? De lo que era la comunidad de Dallas. Y me acuerdo que una reverenda que sabía como 10 palabras de español solamente, ella fue la que trató de unir a los hispanos. Al inicio éramos como 12 personitas. Y cada uno iba con este ego hasta Marte, ¿no? O sea, cada uno traía su historia, su pasado. Entonces, yo recuerdo todavía la primera reunión, porque yo quería saber más de Holmes, yo quería saber más de ciencia de la mente. Y el chico de mi lado, este señor empezó a hablar de los chakras y de las energías y de cosas raras, cosas cuánticas que yo en fundamentos no vi. Entonces, para mí, ese momento, como que el grupo latino de Dallas estaba mucho en el arquitecto, en el querer hacer, en la conciencia, pero no era solamente el querer hacer, sino cómo 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 era la dinámica entre nosotros, ¿no? De querer hacer, ¿no? Después, con los años, los, todo el mundo se fue, la mayoría de la gente se fue e hicimos un grupo más pequeño. En Dallas empezaron a hacer grupos llamados sangas de diferente tipo, ¿no? Entonces, me acuerdo que el grupo que nosotros hicimos era precisamente para oración. Y cambió mucho y se veía mucho la dinámica, muy diferente la dinámica del grupo hispano que recién empecé al que casi dejé, ¿no? Éramos muy poquitas, pero pero se sentía la energía diferente, ¿no? Y por poner otro ejemplo, James, porque sí quiero, también quiero hablar uno que ya te he platicado, ¿no? Hace mucho tiempo atrás, en una de estas comunidades en las que yo participo. No voy a decir el nombre porque igual y me pueden correr cuál comunidad es, pero hablando del líder, ¿no? Yo siento que pasamos por un líder y por un grupo de líderes que tenían mucho miedo, que se manejaban con el miedo y se manejaban con esta idea de la falta de, hablando sobre todo económicamente, ¿no? Falta de recursos, falta de dinero, falta de tarará, falta de cosas, ¿no? Y la conciencia del grupo, la conciencia de esta comunidad era como se manejaba, ¿no? Se manejaba desde una energía de miedo, una energía de falta de, ¿no? Y eso fue, yo siento que fue gran parte de, de la manera en que el líder nos manejaba, ¿no? Pasó el tiempo, fue hace mucho tiempo, muchachos, no crean que fue hace 2 años, no, hace mucho tiempo, el líder ya no está, ¿no? Y se puede notar la diferente manera en que nos estamos manejando ahora. No digo que estos momentos no sucedan, porque sí, de repente hay situaciones, ¿no? Pero sí la conciencia de la comunidad, del grupo, es más por el principio, no digo tampoco que es como el yo, no creo que estemos llegando a eso, pero sí creo que va un poquito más como siendo el canal, siendo este aspecto 3 de saber que Dios se maneja a través de nosotros como nosotros, ¿no? Y creo que eso también pasa en casi todas las comunidades en las que he estado. Puedo ver la diferencia sobre todo cuando inicia o cuando el líder es así como que, eh, pues, pues manda, ¿no? Lo que esta persona tiene. Y bueno, eso es mi experiencia. ¿Cuál ha sido tu experiencia, James? Yo quiero que me cuentes algo, cómo tú has visto, sí, cómo tú has sentido estos diferentes aspectos de conciencia en comunidades que tú has participado.
Well, I think I've got one example I think might be valuable this morning. I know I don't want to take too much time, but when I and mentioned at Namaste, I was there, and I was the senior minister at the time that we were looking to move. We would do Sunday service in a school. We would rent their auditorium. We would store all of our supplies there, and we were looking to find a permanent place that we could rent. And we signed a lease that would start later once we could build out the space and get going. And everything was going well until the city wouldn't give us the final approval. They had given us approvals throughout the process, but eventually they just said, no, you've got to change a lot of things. We had to change a lot of things about the building. And we'd used up most of our funds. And a lot of the community at the time, we were manifesting. We're doing it. We're going. We had a lot of the strong will, and a lot of the community, when that happened, went into fear. What are we going to do? How can we possibly get through this? We have no more money. And others operated out of that third aspect, just that we have to open up to a higher idea. We've been trying to do it on our own. We need to open to a greater idea. And the board, myself and the board, we were operating out of that aspect. And in my Sunday messages, I would talk about, faith and trust and living the principles in our own lives and as a community. And we were able to get a number of new donations and some other financial vehicles, some ways of getting money to build the space out and get going. But it was fascinating to be a leader and also the participant in this dance. As the community was shifting back and forth. And when we did open the space, the celebration was amazing. It was truly amazing as a community. But I think it was a clear example of how, while individuals could maybe have different ideas or be in different places, the community as a whole can move forward and thrive.
Claro, claro. James, ¿qué es lo que, y ahorita yo creo que ya con esta última pregunta vamos a cerrar, ¿no? Para que ya nos lleves a la meditación, pero ¿qué es lo que obtenemos de esto? ¿Qué es lo que obtenemos? ¿Qué es lo que se lleva las chicas que están aquí, la familia de L, del Dominical? ¿De qué nos sirve esta plática? ¿De qué para qué les sirve a ellas llevarse? ¿Cuál es el impacto de reconocer o de conocer los 4 aspectos de la conciencia en la comunidad? ¿De qué les sirve a ellas saber esto? ¿Cómo puede precisamente reconocer el aspecto de la comunidad, cómo les puede ayudar a ellas precisamente en su propia comunidad y a su propio crecimiento. Y con esto yo creo que ya nos explicas y ya nos puedes centrar y llevar en este baile de, que estamos hablando. Adelante.
Okay, well, the way that I think of it is really there's an impact that occurs um, as we participate in a really deep level in community and as the community really. And one is we begin to recognize our reliance on each other. So certainly we're all unique, beautiful expressions of wholeness of the divine. And yet in our human experience, there will be times that we can lean on each other, that we rely on each other for support, like the earth relies on the sun. Community can also provide us the courage, if we don't have it in a moment, to move beyond discomfort or beyond comfort into discomfort, into growth. So the community can support us in growing. And of course, as we grow, the community grows. This helps to expand any limited idea we might have about us. It's also the opportunity to truly live the oneness principle. The community itself can live it, and we individually can live this oneness principle. We honor all paths. We honor all people. We know that everyone in life is this beautiful expression of the one, and so everybody's in the circle. Everybody gets to be included. There's less of an idea to think there's an other or to judge somebody and not allow them to be included, which naturally grows our empathy, our compassion. But ultimately, the shared consciousness of the community points the way to love and transformation. And we can carry a great vision for our lives and for our place in community, and then the vision of the community then can also grow. So I want to take a moment and we're going to have an opportunity to do a closing experiential around this idea of community and vision. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath and just begin to relax. And think about how you give and how you receive in community, specifically spiritual community. Why are you here this morning? What do you receive? What do you give? What's the call of your heart? Why do you participate as part of Region 13, Amada Comunidad? And just going a little deeper. And ask your higher wisdom self to bring forth maybe a grander vision for your life. Just allow it to come up. Allow it to be present. That's right. And from this place of this grander vision, see if there's a grander vision for your participation in spiritual community. Something new, something deeper, born of the heart of service. We recognize through the principle of oneness that there is one life. We are all beautiful, whole, unique expressions of the one life. And that life expresses as every community that we participate in. So beginning to come back, hearts open, remembering any insights, any truths, we allow ourselves to come back to this time and place, to this circle of love, to this service this morning.
And so it is.
So it is. Thank you.
Thank
Gracias.
you. Maritza, querida, estás enmudecida.
Muchas gracias, querido reverendo James. Amada Blankis y querida Araceli, por tanta inspiración. Abracemos e integremos a todos en uno solo. Quiero brindar un agradecimiento muy especial a Lorenza Casielo, quien hace posible nuestra comunidad crezca y las fronteras se diluyan con su maravilloso talento de la traducción. Gracias, gracias, querida Lorenza, por tu trabajo. Hoy recordamos que cuando una persona se eleva, toda la comunidad se expande. No estás solo, nunca lo estuviste. Lo que recibiste hoy, vívelo. Porque tu vibración individual ya está creando un campo de amor colectivo. Y ese campo es tu comunidad consciente. Ahora prepárense para nuestro espacio informativo.